What up, guys? Cole here. Welcome back to the training. This training is on post rotation and productivity. So this is going to be basically what to post and when, right? So we've gone over at this point all of the post, call to action and non-call to action you can do on other people's groups, your personal, and in your own group, right? So now we're going to talk about like the actual rotation and how to I'm going to kind of give you a formula for what to do and what to post and when. And then we're also going to talk about productivity routines for organic lead generation, okay? So this is something, interestingly enough, I wasn't going to include this in the training, but I have gotten tons and tons of requests to, requests for people just asking for advice on this stuff. So it's something I just wanted to include. And if you're an outbound sales rep or you're a setter or a closer, this will be huge for you because this is one of the things from what I've taught to other reps move the needle the most for them. So let's get into it. Just a quick overview of what we're going to cover. Content rotation for posting in groups, your personal, and also your own Facebook group. We're going to call a model I call the conversion engine. It's modeled off of what I learned from Jeff Miller, but I've just kind of tailored it to what I found to work in my own group, as well as more of a high ticket model opposed to information marketing model. So we're going to cover that as well. And then, like I said, the productivity routines for outbound sales reps and your organic. So let's go with, let's start with content rotation for posting in other people's Facebook groups. Now, I'm going to give you some guidelines, but, look, I would start with 3 to 10 groups. That's the quote unquote guideline. But here's the thing, right? If you want to win, like for me, I know how I operate. I just do whatever's necessary to win, right? So I would just be involved in as many groups that are as relevant as possible until you get the traction that you want, right? What's probably going to happen is I would start with a lot of them, and then you're going to find that 2 or 3 are going to give you 80% of the results, and then you just double down on those, and that's how you're constantly bringing in new traffic. Like for me, I got probably 2 or 3 JV / Facebook groups that funnel in clients for me, or funnel in like traction organically for me. So that's all I need. I'm not out there in the ClickFunnels group posting anymore, right? I just don't need to. But if I needed to get traction, you bet your ass that I freaking would. Okay. So in terms of post rotation for other groups, the most important thing is I'd be in there daily sorting by new threads and also the latest activity, right? Because you want the ones that are getting the most traffic. So look through the latest active and also the new. And then, as I mentioned in the training before, add value into those threads. That's so easy. And the thing is, too, like if you just put some time and thought into it and you're actually an expert, you can just dominate those questions and make them it's just, you can take basically a thread that already has a bunch of traction and momentum on it, and then you can be the one who's basically going to get the most likes and go to the top of the comments because your response was so valuable. So always be doing that if you can. Then 3 to 5 times a week, I would start discussions in the group, right? We talked about the model where you can ask a question, then answer your own question. So it's the same thing as this, it's just that you started the discussion. And it works just as well, right? So I gave you an example about that in other people's traffic, that training. Now, 1 to 3 times a week, or depending on how many groups that you're active in, do value-based posts. So wins, commentary, inspiration, stories, etc. Okay. Obviously, the more you can do stuff that is like a demonstration of power and that's like a big win or a big value booster for the group, the better. The only thing with that is that the more valuable it is, and the more kind of upfront it is, the more you want to be, cool with the admin, right? So reach out to them, and go through some of the frameworks we did earlier. But at the very least, wins, commentary, inspiration, stories, always going to be fine. And I gave you some examples of what people did in my group that was pretty good as well. So just model that and do those 1 to 3 times a week or more if you're active in more groups. One last thing is I would tailor your posting schedule to be more heavy on days that you post the call to actions. So, I mean, more or less, like I would be pretty, if I didn't have any traction, I would just be heavy all the time. But especially when you have like a 2-step going or a mission post going or an offer. Because what's going to happen is, like, let's say you post it on Thursday. What I want to do is I want to drive through the threads, discussions, value posts, all that stuff. I want to drive as much traffic as I possibly can to that 2-step post so I can capture those leads, right? So this is something I learned this strategy from a friend who built his business through posting in groups. And I mean, he does 7 figures a year, probably multiple 7 figures a year now. And so this was a strategy I got from him. Is super, super smart. He would post a two-step and then he would go into multiple groups and drop value bombs and go into discussions and just drive a bunch of traffic to it. And it would get tons and tons of traction. So on top of that, the last thing is add your 40 friends daily. We've already talked about that, and that's definitely something to do as well, and even double down on when you have these call to actions, because again, it's going to drive traffic to your page. So let's talk about the content rotation for personal profile. That was other people's groups. Now we're going to go to your personal. So this one is a little bit not as formulaic, I guess you could say, because honestly, I mean, there's no perfect formula. Like you can do kind of different things, and I stay within like these guidelines I'm going to give you. I definitely stay within those, but I kind of feel out, what is my profile missing? Where's my momentum at? What's going on in my life? What do I need? What do my people need? What's relevant right now? And then I kind of tailor it based on that. But no matter what, I'm at least going to post 6 times a week, Monday through Saturday. So at least daily, and probably no more times than 12, right? So usually I'm in between this mark because I'll post once a day, Monday through Saturday, and there's a few days where I'll post twice. And what makes up those posts are direct call to actions, indirect call to actions, and non-call to actions, okay? So once a week, I'll typically do like a 2-step direct offer or mission post. Right now, because the academy's been closed, I've been really heavy on the 2 steps just to promote trainings, which is okay, but the thing is you see diminishing returns eventually with stuff like that. So the best way to do that, I mean, you could do more than once a week. It's just that, it does have diminishing returns when you do that, is I would do once a week and then rotate these. And then if you really are in a bind and like you need traction, you're having a week where, you're not on pace to hit your goals, you need to bump things up, then what I would do is, you can maybe post 1 or 2, right? You can, or all 3 that week if you really, really needed to. Just know that, you're going to take that equity out, and if you don't put it back in, eventually you're going to run out, okay? And you don't want that to happen. Now, the best way I would say to get more leads, if you're in a low week and you've already done your direct call to action, is do 1 to 3 indirect call to actions. So go through the training with Max. He actually gives some really good examples here, but this is where you give value up front and then tailor that into a pitch, right? So it's an indirect pitch, right? And it could be an indirect 2-step. It's mainly going to be an indirect offer, right? Send me a PM if this sounds of interest to you. But it's going to start off like content, and they should get value from it regardless if they take action on it or not. I'm not doing a lot of these right now just because I don't need to because the academy's closed. But I mean, you can do as many as 1, 2, 3 of these a week, and do it on top of your direct call to actions, and it'll keep you from fatiguing your profile and that stuff getting diminishing returns. So you can kind of just use that as you need it. Use more if you need it, or if you don't need it, you don't have to use it at all. But then what I would do is fill the gaps with non-call to action posts, okay? And here's the thing is that you definitely want to do all of these, like at least do 1 a week, right? But at the same time, you might have weeks where you do more lifestyle and testimonials, and other weeks where you do a lot of value. It just kind of depends. So it's all in what you want to do. I would say 4 to 8 times a week, and one's going to be value based, so story, commentary, pure value list, Facebook Live, quick win, etc. Another one's going to be engagement based, so questions, who's the best influencer for this, quotes, inspiration, testimonials, proof, and then lifestyle and entertainment. Okay, so like for instance, you could do 1 lifestyle and entertainment post, 1 testimonial / proof, 2 engagement, and 2 value based. That'd be a great, pretty even, good spread, right? And that puts you right at 4. And then with a direct call to action and indirect, you'd be at 6. Perfect. Okay. What's really important here is that you just get a steady balance of all 4 of these, right? So when I plan my week ahead, and when I look at my profile, I look at like last week's content and the content before, and I see, what was heavy on this and what was missing. And what's funny is a lot of times I'm heavy on the value based, which is actually the most time consuming, which is stupid, right? So then I can kind of ease off of that a little bit and bring the engagement back up, post some testimonials, which I have plenty that I haven't posted, and even just include some lifestyle and entertainment stuff that demonstrates my values, stuff that's fun, gets people to bond with me, so on and so forth, right? So you just need those 4 categories, and that will really give you all, it'll really make your marketing hitting on all cylinders, because this will give you the authority, the proof, both value-based and testimonials. And then the engagement, as well as the lifestyle, but especially the engagement, is really what's actually going to get you traction. Okay, so a lot of people skip out on this and they only do the value, but the thing is, the stuff that gets a lot of the likes and comments, it's going to increase your priority in the feed of the people that you want to get in front of, right? So it's actually hacking the algorithm a little bit, and it's, even if it seems kind of stupid sometimes, it's really important. Now, if you can create great discussions and ask really relevant questions, that's obviously better, right? That's what I try to do. But just don't underestimate the engagement aspect or the lifestyle entertainment, because that's usually very engaging, and you got the rapport, the values, the bonding, so on and so forth. So I already talked about the engagement when you start off is critical. So you really, really want to focus on that. And then also, the more you can get in people's messenger inbox, the faster your reach is going to get. So this is a reason why, if it's possible, with your 2 steps, I would reach out to people personally. Okay? Because if you have a setter do it, your setter is going to get the priority in the feed over you. So when you reach out to that person personally, it's going to, like, when you're engaging with somebody in Messenger, it increases your priority in the feed, because Messenger doesn't know. Messenger is like, okay, this person's messaging this other person. They're probably close friends or family, right? That's the majority of what people use it for, not marketing. So let me know if this makes sense. This is why I have my VA use a VPIN and go in there and still use my profile to respond to everybody, because it's just, I want to be, top of mind in people's feeds, right? It's hacking the algorithm. So now let's talk about the content rotation for your own Facebook group. So the conversion engine. Now this is a little bit more formulaic. However, sometimes I'll admit, I kind of just switch it up on this, and depending on the week and the feel and what I need and what I'm going for, if I'm close to a launch, if I'm not close to a launch, I'll tailor this a little bit, right? But usually it follows a very similar format as this. Monday is customer research / engagement. Okay, super simple. You guys already know how to do that. Tuesday is a value post or a Facebook Live. Now, what I typically do is I usually do written value on my personal, Facebook Live, in my group. Because with Facebook Lives in the group, they get really good reach, and people are more likely to engage a little bit more, which creates more of like an Ask Me Anything type of vibe, and you're building more of the bond, and it kind of feels, since it's Facebook Live, like people are getting more access to you. So I like to do that, even though lately I've kind of been slacking on it, so I need to get that back going. But people love this stuff. And then you could use the videos and put them in your units tab and create like a course content out of it too. And then Wednesday is a call to action, right? So I've been doing 2 steps, like I said, but I mean, you can just rotate between basically offer, 2 steps, mission post. With your offers, remember one thing you can do, because this is going to be a pipeline strategy, is, I mean, you can make a direct offer, basically, hey, we're opening up 10 more spots, something as simple as that. Or you can do an evergreen launch, which is basically where you bolt on a bonus to the existing offer, and then you write copy selling the bonus on top of the offer, right? So like I gave an example, I think in a previous training, where I did one for a company I used to sell for, where I taught an organic marketing system to 3 clients that was producing 300 grand a month for us. And I taught that to 3 people and 3 people only. It was a one-on-one. I was going to do it one-on-one with the clients, and it was on top of everything they got if they bought the product that was being sold, right? So it was just a special opportunity. It was a bolt-on bonus, and that thing went, I mean, I sold that thing so fast. It was crazy. So I would do as many of those and be as prolific with those as possible. Typically about 1 a month is probably good. You can do another direct a month that's just a little bit more general, or an indirect. And then your 2 steps and mission posts obviously lead to messenger, which lead to phone calls as well. So, and then on Thursday, you're going to hype up whatever is going to be on Friday. So what I would do on Friday is either a live training or an interview, right? So we talked about the live training model, to where you're doing like, you're doing a 2-step or a mission post, and you're hyping it up to a webinar, and then you're also getting people in your messenger inbox and calls that way. So on your Fridays, do your live training, or it could be Thursday, it could be any day of the week, but I'm just giving you a model here. You could do Friday, and you could do interviews, because what's going to happen is, as you get busier, right? And you got a full client roster. Um, you're not going to want to come up with a bunch of content every single week, right? So you can do these interviews, and when you do that, the person brings the content, right? So that's super good, and you can use it as a way to also kind of build some authority, right? In the terms of like, anybody you interview, they're lending you authority, and that and within itself is social proof, right? So then on Saturday you can do a recap. What's next? Like, here's what we covered this week. Here's what was cool. If you haven't, and I always like recap people's wins. Congrats to so and so who closed the deal. Congrats to this person. This person, got some amazing support with this. Check out this thread. We also did a live training here, and we're giving away, this new valuable thing. So go comment on it. Awesome, right? And then another thing you can do on Saturdays to make it fun is like I have done wins contests. Um, that's super fun. Any type of contest is fun, but I'd make it pertinent. Like I wouldn't just like give away a MacBook, right? I mean, I would make it like fun and pertinent to whatever you're doing. Like I always like who's closed the biggest deal this week type of thing. And then I wouldn't stop there. So I would sprinkle in. Let me let this thing go away. 1 to 2 value / Facebook Live posts, right? Which could also be indirect offers. And then also 1 to 2 engagement / inspiration, because you want your group engagement to be good. So this would be more like especially the additional value Facebook Lives that are also indirect offers. I would do that more if you're really using this as like an evergreen lead gen engine, right? Because those indirect offers, you're just making offers over and over again, but you're framing it as value. So it's not going to get old, right? You're telling a story, then making an offer through a PS or whatever. And then the engagement inspiration is obviously good to keep the engagement high. So I'd sprinkle in these, but at the very least, just do this and you should be good. It's basically what I do pretty much every week. Now, let's talk about productivity routines for organic marketing and outbound sales. So we're going to have a few things here. We're going to talk about weekly and then daily. But weekly, what you want to do, especially for your organic, is pick a day where you can get in your creativity zone for about 2 to 4 hours. So you're going to, during this time, and you're going to block it out in front of hand. Like I would do it on Mondays usually for me, first thing on Monday morning. And you're going to plan out your organic schedule, and then write the first draft of all your organic posts in both group, personal, and other groups, and you're going to do that as fast as possible. Okay? That is critical. The first draft always sucks. And this is something, I mean, I even struggle with this because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but any great copywriter will tell you the first draft always sucks. Right? So what's important is like, think of like what, why, how, now. Like what I want to talk about, why is it important to the person? Why is it important now to the person? And why should they listen to me? Kind of how does it work? What's the lesson? And like, what's my either inspiration I'm going to leave them off with, or the call to action, or, what do I want them to comment on this post? Like, what do I want to do next? Think of like the what, why, how, now. That'll get you clear on like what you're actually talking about. Then just write it as fast as possible. And then go back and start to incorporate the marketing elements that we talked about before, right? Making sure there's a good hook and there's a good promise and that the lead is kind of teased out a little bit and all of those different things. But just write the first draft in this 2 to 4 hour block. And then the morning of, you have a half hour and you can just edit it. And editing it after you sleep on it for a few days is like super freaking easy. Now, here's the other thing is, remember, a lot of our posts here, if we go back and we look at this, a lot of these are engagement, lifestyle, testimonial. Very few are going to be value-based, okay? Very few. So here's the thing, is that like usually I'm only going to have to write 2 to 3 longer value-based posts or videos, Facebook Lives, whatever. So that's going to be the majority of the time. And I'm just going to write the first draft of those. The rest, I'll plan out the engagement stuff and everything. But I don't need to write a first draft for a question that's just starting a thread, right? So just keep that in mind. I think that's the trick, is everybody thinks it's like they got to write all of this content every single day, and that's not true, right? You're really only writing probably 2 to 3, 4 post tops that are actually like real content, and the rest is just like staying top of mind, engaging people, starting discussions, sharing your lifestyle, sharing testimonials, so on and so forth. So that's weekly. Now, daily, we're going to talk about kind of how to structure your day from the most productive activities to the least productive. So we're going to go with highest or lowest leverage in the next slide. But first, just at a very, very high level, there's only three things that matter until you're probably at least past $1 million a year. I would maybe even say more. But the three things that matter is one, what your offer is, and is it like actually getting the clients the results, right? The promise, and are you fulfilling on that promise? And it should be leveraged, okay? So this is important because if you could only take on 10 clients based on how your offer is set up, well, you're not going to scale past 10 clients until you fix it. And it's a lot harder to fix it after you have all the clients than it is beforehand. Now, if you're right now like brand new and you're still working on getting like your first, second, third client or whatever, don't let that stop. I mean, you just need to get a client, okay? Just like go get some clients. But if you're launching, let's say, a new offer and you have some season under your belt and you're experienced, don't make the mistake. I almost made this mistake, but don't make the mistake of unleveraging yourself and making it to where you can only cap out at 8, 9, 10 people. So it should be leveraged and it should deliver, have a great promise, and deliver on that promise. Other than that, the only other things that matter are generating calls and then doing calls. That's it. Like really nothing else matters. If you're getting your clients amazing results and you have leverage of your time, nothing else matters aside from that, right? So I am super ruthless with my time, and I just make sure that nothing else is going to distract me from doing the things that matter, okay? So other than that, now your day should start off with morning priming and end with deep priming. See keys to high performance if you don't know what I'm talking about there. And then after the morning priming, I'd block off about 30 minutes for organic. So that's the revision of the first draft that we did in the weekly block. And then, you probably won't need 30 minutes, but that's just what I block off. Okay, so usually 10 minutes, like it's so crazy how, I mean, you'll struggle right in that first draft, and then you'll look at it on, 2 days after the day you got to post it, and the revision becomes so easy, and you'll rewrite an entirely better post in like 5 minutes. That's just how it works. So, yeah, again, probably won't take 30, just what I block off. And then after that, what we're going to do is work we're going to work highest to lowest leverage activities. So this is really important. Now, what dictates highest or lowest leverage is what's the most effective thing that generates strategy sessions, right? Because the highest leverage thing you can be doing is actually being on the call, right? Like the highest leverage, most profitable activity in your business is selling, like face-to-face or call-to-call on the phone selling, right? So that could happen through a call, a triage, or a follow-up, right? Any of that stuff, like if your day's filled with that, you've maxed out your leverage. The only way to become more leveraged is to build a sales team. So this is why the people I know who, because I've been a part of a lot of coaching programs and I've sold some of the biggest and most successful coaching programs out there. And the great thing about that is I get to see, all these people come in and who succeeds and who doesn't. I'll tell you, one of the biggest patterns, if not the biggest pattern, is what the people who really succeed do is they streamline their fulfillment, their operations, and their marketing, and then they spend all day on the phone. It's not sexy, it's just what they do. And that's why sales is so freaking damn important, is because they're the best. Nobody's going to be a better salesperson for their business than them. And then they leverage their time, they master sales and leverage their time taking calls all day. And then eventually, once they really have it down, they hire on a sales team and sales reps, which is another really, really tough thing to do. But it's a lot easier when you're really good with this stuff, opposed to trying to hope that somebody's going to come in and save the day. So I'll digress a little bit. That was a little bit of a side. But the highest leverage thing you can do is calls, triages, follow-ups. Now, after that, it's going to be clearing your hot list, okay? That'll be through Google Calendar or HubSpot. We're going to talk about what your hot list is in week 6, okay? So that's really going to come up probably in a video or two right after this training. And then after that, we're going to clear the unreads in your Messenger inbox. Okay, so there's and we'll go through this in week 6 as well, but basically it's super easy. You can just filter by unreads in your Messenger inbox. I'll just go ahead and show you since it's super easy to do. You go to this gear, unreads, and you just filter. See how it filters? I mean, I'm a mess, right? But you see how it just filtered out all of my unreads. So, and then you want to go from the bottom and work your way back up to the top. The other thing as well is the hot list. What I do is I will, people like I immediately need to follow up with, for instance, I'll put up here. Okay. So I'll put people up here that I immediately need to follow up with. I don't really have that many right now because the academy is closed. But normally, like what I would do is I'd have people all week to where if it's like, if I got to follow up with this person within 5 days, I'm going to put them up into it's like an all day event of that day. And I call that my hot list. Now, I'll show you how in HubSpot, if that makes you feel uncomfortable and like it just makes your calendar too messy, I'll show you how to do it in HubSpot as well. And you can literally create a tab that says hot list. But I just always liked it in Google Calendar, and that way you have them separate. So you hit your hot list. That's kind of like your follow-ups, or that might be confirming people on the calls. Just like immediately people you need to touch. Then clear your unreads, because your unreads are people messaging you. That's like inbound leads almost, right? So you want to hit those fast as well. The reason hot list is actually before unreads is because what's going to happen is if you start with unreads, sometimes you'll never get through unreads, especially when you get really good at this stuff. There'd be times I'd sit down for 4 hours and I couldn't even get through my unreads because I had so many from some of the 2 steps that I was doing at the time. So that's why you always want to start with the people like you need to get in touch with first so that they don't fall by the wayside, right? And then after that, you clear your unreads, respond to the new 2-step mission post or offer leads, right? So like, let's say like right now I have a 2-step post with like probably about 100 comments or so, and it's still going. But if I wanted to say lead gen that post, I'd go through all of these all of these 3, and then I would work on the comments of that. And then what's going to happen is you're going to want to alternate and probably go back up to here because you're going to want to, you're going to get more messages coming in. So do this, clear all the unreads. And then once you get to the point where it's like you're messaging like 2, 3, 4 people at a time, then just exit out, go down and work down. And then maybe a couple hours, not even a couple hours, but a half hour, 90 minutes later, filter back up to unreads and just filter it and then clear it out again. And that's a really, really good way to like make sure that this doesn't suck up all your time. Because what I've seen a lot of people do is like they clear them all and then they'll be in a conversation with like 3 people for like 90 minutes. And it's just such a waste of time. So, sometimes you do need to like stick with the conversation, but a lot of times you don't need to do that. So, especially if you're managing a lot of conversations. So then you want to respond to these. And then after that, I'll show you what this is next week. You want to overview your holding and nurturing pipeline, which is basically going to be your long-term follow-up deals. And then go through your long-term follow-up tasks. Okay, that'll both be in HubSpot. We'll go through that next week. Then if you get done with all of that, which I'll tell you what, there's so many times when I was selling full-time, I wouldn't even get to here, right? Like a lot of times I couldn't even clear the unreads of my messenger inbox. And that was because I was lead genning so hard to where my people messaging me back were just crazy. But if you get through all of that, then about once or twice a month, I would do what's called the rehash strategy. And we'll go over what that is in week 6. Then after that, you can do warm outreach, which is reaching out to people who like or comment on your posts, either in other groups or your page or preferably your own group, right? That's like your warmest people. And then you could do cold outreach, which is like they accept your friend request and you just hit them with a DM. Right? So you see how, like, and this is what a lot of people do as their main lead generation strategy. I'm not saying this is bad, okay? It's just contextually, there's a lot more higher leverage activities that you could be doing, right? I'd rather hit my hot list than my cold outreach, right? It's just these people know, like, and trust me. I've already spoken with them. They're already on my calendar, whatever. This is a lot closer to the sale than this, right? Like, this is like taking a 3-foot putt. This is going to be like teeing off from the green. And then the last thing is outbound calls, okay? And that's basically cold outreach. Now, depending on your system, outbound might be higher leverage. Like for instance, if you got leads coming in who've just bought, let's say, a $50 product, if you can call those leads the day of, preferably within an hour, the receptiveness towards your phone call is going to be so much higher, right? And that's actually going to be a pretty good lead. They'll probably want to have a conversation with you, opposed to, if you're calling, let's say, a lead off of like a list of people who registered for a webinar 2 months ago, right? If that's the lead, right, then that's going to be further down this list. So you might move this up or down depending, but it just depends, right? It's going to depend on your business, who you're selling for, how you run your marketing, so on and so forth. So now what you could do is do all of this and then finish your day with fulfillment. That's what I've been doing lately. Or what you could do is block 1 to 2 days as fulfillment days, and then have the rest be days where you take sales calls and you just work. I mean, your whole day is just this list. Okay. So it's like a full-time selling day versus a fulfillment day. Now, sometimes that's not practical based on how you have stuff set up. So then what I would do is just start your day organic, work down the list, and then make the later hours in your day the fulfillment, especially if you can choose to do so, because it's just a lot of this stuff, you're not going to want to do it when you're freaking tired after a bunch of client calls. Okay. So it's like, let's do the most important stuff first. Let's work on our business first, and then we can work in our business later. Now, again, in-depth how-to information on all of these is going to be detailed in week 6. So that's it for the training, guys. We're finishing up week 5 right now, and then we're going to get into week 6. And as you'll see, week 6 will be, it goes hand in hand with week 5. So a lot of this stuff's going to relate. So that's it for the training, guys. We'll see you in the next training.